This is the Earth Science Classroom. Welcome back to the channel. This video is about the United States of Earth Science and how this country, the 50 states, and as you see here, the lower contiguous 48 states with one common border on the same landmass. And what you have is a very large, over 3.1 million square miles just on this map alone, without Alaska and Hawaii. What you have is an area or geographic area that experiences every kind of geoscience, physical geography, and earth science natural feature that occurs on this planet. There's not much that goes on this planet besides the occasional maybe monsoon in Southeast Asia that doesn't happen in the United States. In some area, some time, either present or in the past, that hasn't happened on the US. So we have all this myriad of processes and natural disasters and events that earth scientists and scientists in general love to study up close and personal in the US, compared to other parts of the world that may have some of these events, but not all together and not all usually in one year. So this video is about the amazing United States of America and how this place is an amazing location to study and focus on earth science. The United States, besides its earth science that's going on all the time, its sheer geography is huge. Now, there are larger countries out there in terms of square miles or square kilometers in terms of Canada and Russia, but America has such a diversity and myriad of different zones and areas and biomes based on the longitude and latitude. So in terms of the size, the latitude goes from 18.9 degrees south in Hawaii, which is in the tropics, all the way up to 71 degrees north in the Arctic Circle, or beyond it, up in Alaska, northern Alaska. Then in terms of longitude, goes from the New England coast of 66 degrees west all the way over to the far side of Alaska, on the west coast of Alaska, which is 172 degrees west. So you have a huge expanse of land that encompasses all these different climates, from the tropics and the hot areas of Texas and Florida and Hawaii to the temperate mid-latitude zones across the lower 48, up to the frigid north in Alaska, where you get these different climates altogether up around the Arctic Circle and across like the Aleutian Island chain. So in teaching earth science, I can pick from a multitude of different topics of where to start all through the year in the curriculum. So everything is always new and fresh and different examples and case studies, all within our country that can be either relatable, or some students may have gone there on vacation or on a field trip. So I broke into three sections. The atmosphere, so in terms of the climate, again, based on the insolation of solar radiation from the sun, the tilt, and the latitude, America is basically right smack in, mostly in the mid-latitudes of the lower 48, experiencing a lot of the four seasons based on the different westerly winds, with the change in season and the shift in the subpolar jet stream can create different weather patterns across the whole US based on like precip levels and temperature, so snow, ice, hail, and sleet, versus high pressure and droughts and nice warm weather and heat waves in the south, southwest, and southeast, reaching 100 degrees on multiple days. So there's a wide variety of temperatures and weather conditions based on different areas of the country. It's not even talking about Hawaii or Alaska, just the lower 48. And then we're looking at the extreme atmospheric conditions, so the tornadoes, the mixing of moist, warm water off the Gulf of Mexico, smashing against cold, drier, denser air coming off the Rocky Mountains. You get this beautiful situation creating tornadoes and these large supercell thunderstorms which can rotate and cause torrential rain, high winds, and obviously tornadoes, which are devastating. Then you have things like snowstorms, the lake effect snow off the Great Lakes, or the snow on the Rockies, or the Sierra Nevadas, which can be in feet over the course of a season. And you have high precip areas or low precip areas. You have areas of desert and arid conditions in the southwest where you have very little rainfall. Like Death Valley is extremely hot and has limited rainfall. So if you're going hiking in those areas, you've got to be careful what time of year you go hiking. Hawaii is one of the wettest places on Earth on some of the top of the Shield Mountains, like Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea has a lot of rainfall. A lot of snow in Alaska, obviously, based on the latitude and the seasonality and the temperature. And this can all be linked to the mid-latitude cyclones, low pressure, depressions moving across from west to east across the lower 48. And we also have huge forest fires, which are unfortunate if you live in those areas, like in the southwest or the west coast, where you have basically forest fires every single year due to the temperature and the dryness of the vegetation, but obviously, very, very dangerous. Then we have the tectonic issues and extreme events. So you have the earthquakes. You've got tons and tons, thousands of fault lines, both active and inactive, historical fault lines dotted across the west coast, the central plains, and the east coast. The most famous is the San Andreas fault line, that 800-mile fault line dividing basically the Pacific plate with the North American plate. And you have this grinding, this transform plate boundary right on our doorstep, basically to study and to basically look at every day, and hopefully not have a big earthquake in the near future, either for LA or San Francisco. So you have these amazing fault lines and earthquakes. You have the fracking earthquakes, which are obviously in the Midwest, and you have a seismic zone in the East Coast or the Southeast Coast called the New Madrid seismic zone. And with the active margin, the tectonic convergent plate boundaries of the Pacific and the Juan de Fuca off the coast of Oregon and Washington, and the North American plate being continental, you have a very large subduction zone and subduction plate right off the west coast, causing these beautiful parallel aligned volcanoes called the Cascades all the way down the American Northwest. So volcanoes like Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, are beautifully active, large, very powerful volcanoes. Now, in terms of the hydrology, the surface hydrology, you've got this beautiful, large Mississippi river basin, which includes multiple very large rivers like the Ohio, the Missouri, and obviously the Mississippi, all branching from the far high plains up in the American northern states of Montana and the Dakotas, all the way down through to Louisiana to the delta that ends up in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a beautifully large watershed ranging from the Appalachians on the east to the Rockies on the west. So again, the geological landforms, the orogenies, the Rockies and Sierra Nevadas and Cascades, the basin and range area in the middle of the west coast. You have the Appalachians on the east coast going from the Alabama and Tennessee all the way through up to New England, New Hampshire and Maine. So there's beautiful mountain ranges on either coast and a large plain through lots of multiple rivers end up in the Mississippi in the central region. Again, the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Erie, and Ontario, all are situated on the border of both the US and Canada. And we don't even mention yet the national parks, the amazing, beautiful, visited by millions and millions of tourists worldwide, these beautiful national parks, all have these a massive array of their own special rock formations or active areas, like Yellowstone with the geysers, with Yosemite with the beautiful rock formations and the batholiths, and Half Dome with Joshua Tree, and with Bryce Canyon, and Monument Valley with the Buttes and the Mittens, and you have with like Glacier National Park, and of course you have the Grand Canyon and the beautiful sculpted walls of the canyon dating back to 1.8 billion years ago. The West Coast really is a geologist's playground in terms of what you can see, study, and gain knowledge about the West Coast's history, the rocks, and how it's changed over time. And on the east coast, we can also study the array of glaciations over the northeastern states, going from like New Jersey up to Maine, and the 3 main ice ages that have happened over the last 2.1 million years, which has sculpted the landscapes, the valleys, and also the rock formations. And in terms of our 50th state in our country, that was commissioned back in August of 1959, Hawaii, the beautiful islands, volcanic in nature, these hot spots that move west with the Pacific plate, and you get these beautiful shield volcanoes, the wettest place on earth, great for surfing, and amazing landscapes to study in terms of the black sand from the basalt being broken down from the lava, and the constant eruptions that this state has. And then last but not least, our 49th state, which is Alaska, huge land area, commissioned in January of 59 and bought from Russia originally. And it has amazing mountain ranges, coniferous forests, you've got boreal forests, you've got taiga biomes, you've got this huge expanse of wilderness untouched by man. You've got the Aleutian Island chain, which is a large volcanic chain. You've got the Valley of 10,000 Smokes and these massive volcanoes that erupt from the subducting plate. The Pacific plate is subducting, and you have the Arctic conditions in the north. You've got these huge expanse of just open land and pure geology and geography. Again, just untouched by man. It is the last frontier. It is beautiful. So as an earth science teacher in this country, coming from a different part of the world, which is England, and coming to America and knowing all this amazing events and processes happen on this country in different areas, different times, different sizes, it gives me a great amount of info and excitement when I come to the classroom and teach my students about this amazing subject, this amazing scientific discipline that includes so much different parts of science and geography and history and anthropology and why we settled in certain areas and how the earth affects how we live. It's just absolutely incredible.